creatures. I always enjoy doing shows like this where there's going to be some action and of course, dogs, who are one of my favorite creatures. Joining me this evening is Joanne Dixon, and she is president of the BC Siberian Husky Club and does rescue work. Welcome again to the show.
Thank you for having me.
And Carmen Haler, did I say that right?
Nope.
It's Haller,
Haller.
but it's close enough.
I was going to do that.
I'll answer to anything.
Who is vice president of the BC Siberian Husky Club, and you're also a judge?
Yeah, I'm a Canadian Kennel Club judge.
Hi, and we better say hi to
Marin,
our husky girl. And as Joanne said, you're a Siberian specialist.
Yes, I am.
And Monica Pinsker, and you're treasurer of the club. And you're also president of the Renaissance Club.
Yes, no,
Well-
I'm not the president, I'm the show chair.
Okay, good.
That's more important.
That's
There you
more
go.
important.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Okay, first of all, since there's two of you here, what is the BC Siberian Husky Club?
Well, it started in 1974. A group of people who decided that this was the breed of choice. They're very enthusiastic about promoting the breed, breeding good, healthy dogs, and exhibiting them at shows. We're having our 34th annual specialty on the Easter weekend, so we've been around for quite a while. We had many members way back when. We started off with about 45 to 50 members. We're down to 3 right now, but we're just doing a show basically a year. We're not doing any of the functions that we used to do. Like, people get older, so things change.
Run out of steam.
Yes.
So I want to ask all of you, why Huskies? What's the interest in Huskies? Why do you like Huskies?
Well, I think, first of all, it's a very attractive breed. Now, they do have a bit of a reputation of, you let them off the leash and off they run, and they do like to roam about a bit. But they are a very loving dog, a good family dog, a very affectionate dog. They're not the most protective dog. They'll let anybody into the house, show them where all the jewelry is and that. But I first got into the breed. My husband was very involved in showing them for obedience. And I just grew up with Siberians that they come when they're called, they do what they're told, they're just really lovely dogs. And whenever one wore out, we found another one, and I was fortunate enough some years ago to get a beautiful dog from Joanne. He was a lovely show dog, a great ambassador for the breed, and I'm just very partial to them.
And do you have a special interest, Monica, in
Yes, I judge.
Huskies or, okay.
Well,
Talk a bit
I
about
used to
that.
breed boxers for 45 years.
Okay, there you go.
And through my relationship with Joanne, I became interested in the Siberian Husky. And I very much like them for the same reasons that Carmen gave. They're a lovely breed, and they're a running breed, they're energetic, they're beautiful, really. And I also judge them with the American Kennel Club. So, I really enjoy looking at them, and that's really what one needs to have live with them if you like looking at your dog every day of the week.
I want to talk a bit about their reputation, and I got a dog, Justice, from Joanne. I had a Siberian before then. And they do have a reputation, and what's interesting to me is my Siberian, the first Husky. Very much people talked about running away, don't have small dogs, don't have cats. And at this point in my life, not only do I have all of the above, but I have chickens and goose and ducks. And there's always this, don't be surprised, something bad's gonna happen. And you know what? There's no way I
Nothing
can
ever
trust
did.
Justice. In fact, he takes it upon himself to protect everybody. So talk a bit about that reputation.
There's
where it comes
always
from.
exceptions, but general rule, they have a very strong prey drive. They do go after small things. In my backyard, for instance, the neighborhood crows and squirrels know better. They don't even enter my yard. This year already I've had 3 dead possums. So it is inherent
It's the
in the breed.
wolf gene.
Probably. And I always think that, a lot of these dogs, given the opportunity out on their own, would survive. They have the ability and the knowledge, to go after and find something to eat, and they'll get it.
What was that show, that movie I liked so much that was such, you know, the fellow who had the sled dogs and went up north and he had to leave them behind. There was a storm, high 8
I
or,
saw that.
Oh, 8 below.
or 8.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that whole idea that
Yeah.
they could survive on their own.
Yeah.
They are a very resourceful breed. And as Joanne said, and you said yourself, cats aren't a problem. If they're your own cats, your own home, they're very willing to accept. I've had cats, I've had chickens, and the dog is just fine with them. It will chase the neighbor's cat out of the yard, but they're, with most dogs, what you put into them is what you get out of them. If you tie them up or leave them in the yard, pay no attention to them, you're not going to have a lovable companion.
It'll start to get
Yeah.
crazy.
Yes, and you spend a lot of time with your dogs.
Yes, indeed.
You
And
do.
when we talk about spending time with your dog, it doesn't necessarily have to be that really formal training where you're taking them to obedience classes, but just that household training, teaching them manners, teaching them expectations. And most people don't think of that. If you have a big dog, you don't want them on your good furniture, then when they're little tiny puppies, don't let them up there. It will never be a problem.
Start right from the beginning.
Absolutely.
So do we know the history of when dog shows, I mean, not necessarily all the details, but when did dog shows start? How did they start? Do you know?
Okay, the Canadian Kennel Club is 125, this is its 125th, last year was its 125th anniversary. So for 125 years, there have been dog shows for purebred dogs in Canada, slightly more in the United States. The very first dog show was held by the Kennel Club in England. And it started out with individuals having their dogs and just wanting to get into a bit of a sport, like my dog's better than yours. And
okay.
the initial ones were mainly with hunting dogs, and then it slowly evolved to include other breeds.
Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting.
This is a side note. Monica Pinsker bred the #1 dog in Canada in
Oh, good Lord, 70 something.
1970 something. It was a boxer, yeah, over all breeds in all of Canada.
So why your interest in boxers? I know they're nice dogs. I've met
Well,
boxers,
we picked the
but
boxer when we researched the breed, which I recommend for everyone who wants to buy a dog. Research what you're looking for, what is your lifestyle, what do you need from the dog. And we had little children at the time. And so the more we searched around, the more we got into the boxer. And so we bought our first boxer as a companion for our son. And then we got roped into showing and,
where does the
Everybody else.
boxer come from?
actually, it's a German breed. It descends from a breed called Bullenbesser, which is a Mastiff type breed.
That makes sense. The
And then
shape,
over
sort
the
of.
years, it evolved into what it is today. So it's really, if you're elderly, I would recommend you have a smaller dog, something that you can easily pick up and that is easy to manage. If you're into hunting, well, get yourself a hunting dog. That is where the purebred dog has a big merit, because you know what you're going to get.
So it's one thing to own dogs, and I'm a dog owner, have been for a while. But how did you, each of you, I'd like to hear from you, how you got so involved in dogs? How did that happen?
Well, for myself, it happened because I got into it in my 20s, and I was married, and what do you do when you get married? You get a dog. So we had this Doberman. He had registration papers, and I had a friend, and they'd bought a boxer from a show breeder, and their dog was going to a dog show, and I thought, well, if your dog's going to a dog show, so can mine. So I got in touch with a woman, a lovely lady named Susan Hillman. She's now deceased, and she agreed to show my dog for me, and the rest is sort of history.
So it is only purebreds that show, right?
Yes.
Or no?
In confirmation.
In the confirmation shows, it's only purebred registered dogs. In the obedience, you can now get a performance number. So if your dog looks to be purebred but doesn't have papers, it can be shown in the performance activities. In the agility competitions, which are a lot of fun, a lot of dogs, they'll accept any breed of dog to show in those. And I think the Canadian Kennel Club is now also working to change the rules and become more
Expand.
inclusive. Yes.
And how did you get so involved in dogs? Because you're part of the Renaissance. Maybe you should talk about the Renaissance Club. I didn't ask you that
Well,
when I was
Renaissance
asking about-
Dog Association, we will hold a 6-day event in April over the Easter weekend. We have 22 specialties with us, meaning specialty clubs like the Siberian Husky Club, the BC Doberman Pinscher Club, and so on. They all have events of their own, and they also have obedience of their own and rally. And so we host them, and we are open to the public. We do not charge admission. We do not charge parking. We are wheelchair accessible for everyone. So people can come and just sit and watch all day if they want to. It doesn't cost them a dime.
Wow.
So
And how did you get so involved?
It is a lot of work, and I don't mind doing it. I stopped breeding dogs because I'm now of an age where I don't think it's responsible to create another generation of dogs that I am responsible for at least 10 years. So it got more and more into the, volunteering at the shows, and now I'm running it. So
One step out. One step
I went
out.
that step above.
So we have a visitor here today, and it might take him a few seconds to get here. Now I'm going to hopefully not get this name wrong for your mascot, Ioko.
Oh,
You got it right.
got
There
it.
you
I
go.
did it right.
you got it right. Yes. Yes.
And how has Ioko helped you?
Oh my gosh. Just being our mascot and being there to support the club, and we have a little bucket, and here he is. We have a little bucket, or sometimes the hat, and he goes around and he asks for donations for our rescue dogs. And he also has done conventions with his other group that we have been designated as their specific charity for the year. And all that money is turned over to our club to help dogs, like not Marin, she's my own dog, but dogs that are in need of a home or need of some medical treatment or whatever. And so we kind of spread it that way. I've placed 116 rescue dogs over the years that were not
That's
my own, that I
amazing.
didn't breed. And he has played a huge role in helping people enjoy giving a little bit of money to the dogs.
Ioko, you remind me of my Siberian, except he was whiter, but those blue eyes. You're so handsome. And are you a boy or are you a girl? It's hard for me to tell.
Oh,
A
he's
boy. And where do you come from? Where do you live?
He hails from North Vancouver, I believe. Yeah.
And how long has your mascot been involved with you guys? I don't.
Oh,
Did you
gosh,
say?
about 4 years now, I guess. We've got some pictures of our. He comes to our specialties, and when the winners go up and have their pictures taken with the judge and their big ribbons and that, then Ioko's standing in behind, helping hold the trophies or whatever like that. So.
Does
and-
he scare the kids?
No, no.
Oh,
he's,
that's
and
amazing.
A couple,
I
of the
thought
dogs,
maybe-
a couple of the little dogs have been kind of like, oh, what is that? But most of them are just fine. But I mean, who could not love this? Really?
Very nice. Yes. Well, even my little one isn't, and
Yeah,
I'm
no,
surprised
not at-
actually.
Yeah, look at her.
She's like, I'm curious. You look like a dog, but I don't know.
No, he's been a tremendous help to our club. It's just been and how I got to know.
I was just gonna ask,
Okay,
how
how
did
I got
this
to know Ioka
introduction
in the
happen?
first place was he got a rescue dog for me, a dog that had been purchased from a kennel in Alberta, wound up over in Queen Charlotte Islands, and the young man who had her couldn't handle her. She was kind of a tough nut, and so she went into the SPC there. Oh, shush, they talk. And so they called me and said, we have this dog. We don't want to put her down. Can you take her? And that's always the case. We're going to kill the dog unless you take it. So I take it. She came and she spent, I don't know, about 5 or 6 months with me, I guess, before Ioka came around. And anyway, I'm never very nice to people who are looking for dogs. What do you want one for? What are you going to do it? They have
Testing.
to jump through hoops. And when I'm satisfied that it will be the right home for that dog, and to say that, I've never had one returned in all these years, never. So anyway, I agreed to let him have this particular dog. And we find out about a month later that he is quite a good friend of the guy who gave the dog up.
Oh, that's interesting. Who would know? A small world.
Yes, it was. But anyway, she's doing really, really wonderful. Great dog, lots of smarts, knows all kinds of tricks. You go bang and she falls over dead and stuff like that. Whenever he's busy, she comes to spend a few days with us at Husky Camp. But
So I know Ioko can't answer this, but maybe you can. Like, can people get your services to have you at an event or no? Oh, it's all your, what's the word for that? He's yours.
yeah, exclusive.
Exclusive.
Exclusive. Yeah.
There you go.
But he does
Exclusive.
volunteer for different charities around town. That's something, I think just today, the hard thing, he was at the St. Patty's Parade today. He does
So he
volunteer
gets
and do
around.
stuff like that. And when the Olympics were here, him and about 4 of his buddies, unasked, got dressed and went out into the crowds and just created such goodwill for all the people that came for the Olympics and stuff. It was really good. Really good guy.
Well, I'm glad you could join us today. You can hang around a bit, but you can.
Shake a paw.
I'm shaking the paw. All right.
Thank you, Ioko.
So, who decides what is the perfect? I guess it's not the perfect breed, but the perfect example of the breed. Where does that come from? Like, who decides?
We have a
this?
standard.
Standard.
And
Yeah.
who sets that standard? Talk a bit about that.
Usually the people, the ones who are there at the beginning when the breed first starts off in a particular country. Like sometimes we have a new breed coming over from Europe, so somebody has imported that dog, and so they'll form a club and do all the right things according to the CKC's rules and regulations to get the dog recognized in Canada. This is like a new breed. These ones have been around for a long time, so their standards are pretty much set. But from time to time, there is, you can go in and change something because different things happen. Like right now, there is a Merle gene being introduced into this breed, as was the Chihuahuas and so on. Some people who had Australian Shepherds and Siberians all of a sudden had dogs with different rare colors. Very wrong. And I'm working with a group of people right now. We're doing an illustrated standard for this breed, and we've been working on it for almost a year now. And that's one of the things we will include when we actually publish our new drawings, is that this patterning is not acceptable in this breed. So any judge, for all the breeds, they will pick up a book of standards, and it's about this thick, and it's all on each individual breed, what it should look like, where their ears should be, where the tail should be, what the coat should be like, what their temperament should be like, whether the color is acceptable in this breed or not. This is any color, but in some breeds not. Some are very specific to colors. But it's all written down. The judges have to study it. They have to pass a test to become a judge. They have to be able to,
sort of know that.
yeah, put that out there verbally.
Or, okay, so is this about, maybe the judges can talk about this, is this strictly about the look? Like I've heard things like with the Husky, if the tail touches the back, well, that's a no-no,
Well, it's not about the look totally. Within the breed standard, there is a concept known as form and function. So with each breed, you go back to the original purpose of the breed. Now, the Siberian Husky is a relatively primitive breed. It can trace its ancestry back to wolves. They've not changed overly much for when they worked for the Chukchi Indians in Siberia. So this breed had to have a good, thick undercoat to keep warm in those harsh Siberian winters. The tail had to be able to cover their nose when they were sleeping.
Oh, that's interesting. Anyway.
And it had to cover all the exposed skin areas so that they wouldn't freeze up. If you look at a Siberian closely, they have eyelashes. That also wards off the snow. They have a very oblique, almond-shaped eye because a big round eye in the cold weather wouldn't be functional.
I hope we're getting some of
So each of the,
our Siberian.
yeah. So these are very functional things. And when people into a breed that's a relatively pure breed through its ancestry, when you start introducing other things
Different
into
things.
it, it's not necessarily in the dog's best interest.
That's interesting. I mean, I think of things, and Monica, you might know a bit more about this than John coming. I think about German Shepherds. And I don't know how many German Shepherds I've seen that have that very low back, hip, or legs. I'm not even sure what to call it. And honestly, they look crippled. And I think, why were they bred to have this look when they must have been normal dogs at some point? If you can talk a bit about that.
My mother used to breed German Shepherds. When I
There
grew
you go.
up.
I thought that
So
you might be the...
in Europe, and our dogs were meant for police work. So they had to be structurally completely sound, because any dog that is not structurally sound will break down with the work that is required from it. And this is how I look at it when I judge dogs, that can they do the job they're meant to do? If they cannot do the job, then something isn't right here, right? And then I cannot award this dog a top honor, because I know it is not sound. I mean, it might look quite cute and all that, but is it able to do the job it's bred for?
And I guess that's part of my, you're answering sort of the question, is health a part
Absolutely.
of shows
Huge.
and
Big time.
breeds?
Huge.
And
Big time.
Some breeders are like myself. We spend thousands of dollars before we ever put a female with a male. On DNA testing, on hip dysplasia, on elbows, on eyes, on heart
Hearts, yes.
disease. Everything has to be tested before we ever mate. Then it's really up to God, but at least we're doing everything we can to assure a healthy next generation. That's all we can do.
do judges ever have, well, first of all, I don't want to get too into this because we're going to run out. This time has gone really fast. But do judges ever have differences? And then what happens if there's a, like, you know, if judges have different opinions about a dog? Like, who, I guess, gets that final say, or do most
Well, it's
of the time they
subjective.
agree?
I mean, what each one of us can see, it's quite subjective, and that's why there are differences of opinion. There are certain overall truths that most judges will recognize, and that is your basic form and function. If a dog is not using its running gear properly, if it's not running properly back and forth, if it's crossing its legs or doing weaving, most people can see that. Where the finer differences of opinion come in what we call breed type, where you look at the coloration, the expression of the face, those sort of things, sometimes the shape of the body. That's the more subjective part.
Now, I have to ask this question, and Joanne probably knows it might be coming, and then we'll talk about the shows coming up. But, you know, there's so many rescue dogs, and there's so many sites of, you can find a Husky, you can find a Border Collie, you could probably find anything you're looking for. Should there be a moratorium on bringing any more puppies into the world? I don't mean into the world, but maybe into Canada, maybe into BC, maybe into Vancouver.
That's the topic that's near and dear to my heart. I think unless there is a purpose, like your really dedicated breed fanciers and breeders will spend a lot of money and effort, and they're responsible for their dogs. They never have to go into rescue. You know, I'll breed a litter. If people allergies, it comes back to me. I'll find a home. So if you're rescuing a dog, most rescue people should have their dog spayed or neutered.
Yeah.
There's no reason to have your dog running loose in the street. It's not fair to other people. We have issues with all this dog legislation. There's no need for that if owners weren't responsible. There would be no need for rescue dogs if everything was spayed and neutered. You know, every dog deserves a good home, regardless of what it looks like, what the breed. And we owe that, when you bring a litter into the world, you own that litter for life.
I think the biggest issue is not with people who are breeding purebred dogs and doing the health checks and, you know, looking at pedigrees and saying, okay, this grandfather produced this thing, I don't want to have that with this dog, so I won't go there. They do a lot of investigation before they do that breeding, plus all these very expensive health tests. So, and good breeders only breed when they want to keep something. They need to have a dog to go on with their own plans and so on. So they breed a litter, they keep a dog. They place the other ones in appropriate homes, either show homes or pet homes. It's the people who are out there who have a dog and want to show the kids the miracle of birth or whatever like that. And the dog's not registered, and Joe Blow down the street, and then you got 6 puppies, and off they go to the local flea market selling out of the back of the truck and stuff like that. That's where most of the rescue dogs come from. Unfortunately, there are some commercial breeders who breed a lot of dogs and will never stand behind them. And we all know who they are. So we try and put a stop to it wherever we can. We're not always successful, but we try. But the purebred dog breeders, for the most part, are people who responsible and who literally, you know, have the dog's best interests at heart. The what we call backyard breeders, they're not, and that's where all the big problems come from.
Now we're quickly running out of time. I hope we have what, a couple minutes, a minute? Okay. Well, talk about the shows coming up. You mentioned them quickly, but maybe
Where
talk
and
about when they are and how people can get in touch with you to find out more
Okay.
information.
We start, the first show is April 16th, it goes 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st. We are at Heritage Park in Chilliwack. As I said, there's no admission, there's no parking fees except for the heavy weekend, and then only by donation. And everyone is welcome. We hopefully have one of the largest shows in